Part 1 of how we train our livestock guardian dogs. We want well-rounded dogs, and so the best piece of advice we can give is to start with one puppy at a time. At this point, you might be saying, hey, wait, because if you're already following us, you've likely seen videos of our two Great Pyrenees, Apollo and Artemis. We did get them both as puppies, but we were moving at the time, and we rehomed Artemis to a friend. We couldn't give both the attention they needed while packing and moving. It's also super important to train them separately so they spend less time together and bond with us as their shepherds, and we just couldn't do that at that time. But 7 months after we gave her up, our friends reached out and said that Artemis wasn't going to work out for them. So we hired a company to transport her from Tennessee to us in Wisconsin. Expanding on part 1, we give our livestock guardian dogs plenty of time to bond with us. That means we start them in the house. There's a lot of controversy around this, so I won't comment on that, but I will say Apollo is the most well-rounded guardian we have, and he spent the most time with us in the house, learning the different surfaces, trying to learn manners, how to treat cats, and so on. I promise they won't be ruined. Far from it. And they transition outside on their own. Apollo's been outside nearly 24/7 since just before he turned a year old. So what other reason do we have for starting them in the house? Why do we start our livestock guardian dogs in the house? We crate train, we potty train, we try to do everything we can to prepare for a worst case scenario. Think fire evacuation. Think of how much there is to do in the case of a fire evacuation. We've got to load our livestock, grab any emergency essentials, and the last thing we'll want to do is spend time fighting with massive stubborn dogs that refuse to go in a crate. Our dogs go straight in their crate, which brings me to our next bit of training. We don't have large crates for all of our dogs. We have 5. So we want to make sure we have our dogs trained to load up in a car. This is also great for vet visits. We're pretty rural, and while we do have a vet for our livestock, we do not have a vet that is willing to make farm calls for our dogs. We have to take them to the vet. That leads us to thinking about socialization. We want our dogs to be friendly enough for encounters while we are out and about, even if it's just to the vet. And we also want our dogs to be reasonably friendly to visitors on our property. We have 4 kids and we homeschool, so we have kids around quite often. We only use positive reinforcement to train our livestock guardian dogs. These dogs are massive and will stand their ground if pushed far enough. They're bred to be aggressive towards threats and do not back down. And e-collars are generally not recommended for dogs that may be considered aggressive. It'll say that in the instructions that come with them. So what do? We give a lot of praise and create a lot of positive associations. We prevent negative events from happening, like a buck ramming a new dog or a chicken pecking and so on. When we see our dogs doing something good, we make every effort to praise them for it. If we have treats, we give treats. Otherwise, we give pats, verbal praise. It might even look a little absurd at times. As soon as they sit or lay down, we praise a lot. If an animal is leaping around them and being playful and they stay in place, we praise them. And instead of telling them what not to do, like no, instead we tell them what to do. We ignore jumping, offering no feedback, and offer immediate praise as soon as they stop. Or we head off jumping by telling them to sit before they even get a chance to jump. We hope these tips help you with your dogs.